Acting is a job, and like any job, there are days where you're just going through the motions to get that sweet, sweet paycheck. So whether it's actors who were slumming it for the money or just doing some work until the next prestige project came along, we've got to look at some stars who were just too good for their movies. Michael Caine in Jaws: The Revenge. When he was asked to appear in the fourth installment of the once proud Jaws franchise, Roy Scheider is rumored to have said, quote, "Satan himself could not get me to do Jaws Part 4. Believe it or not, the actual premise of this movie is that a great white shark is exploiting a completely unexplained psychic connection to Ellen Brody in order to get revenge for the death of the shark in the original Jaws, hence the tagline, "This time, it's personal." Michael Caine, who plays a character named Hoagie, missed out on receiving his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in Hannah and Her Sisters, the first Oscar he actually won after 3 nominations, because he was on location for reshoots to Jaws 4. When asked about the film later, he had the right perspective on the whole thing. "I have never seen it, but by all accounts, it is terrible. However, I have seen the house that it built, and it is terrific." Jeremy Irons in Dungeons & Dragons. Academy Award winner Jeremy Irons is a natural villain, even when playing an animated lion in a Disney movie for babies.
Long live the king.
When he played Prophion, the villainous wizard of the 2000 Dungeons & Dragons movie, well, let's just say he rolled a natural 1 on his subtlety check. Rather than attempting to bring all the fun stuff about the game to life, the people behind the film ended up with a monumentally generic fantasy setting where the most likable character was Marlon Wayans as a cowardly thief named Snails. But Irons doesn't let the material drag him down. His performance is a masterclass in scenery chewing.
Let the blood rain from the sky!
He's clearly having fun, even if the audience isn't. Sir Ben Kingsley in Bloodrayne. In 1982, Sir Ben Kingsley starred in Gandhi, a film that was nominated for 11 Academy Awards and won 8, including Best Actor for Kingsley. 23 years later, Kingsley joined a cast that included Billy Zane and Meatloaf for Bloodrayne, the film adaptation of a video game that isn't even the 5th best movie about a half vampire. It's another fine entry in the canon of Uwe Boll, the director responsible for a string of notoriously terrible video game flicks that were essentially made to exploit a loophole in German tax law. That said, Kingsley doesn't exactly help matters. While he's clearly capable of much more, he plays the villain of the film as cold and emotionless.
With the talismans joined, vampires shall rule the earth.
Which is a nice way of saying that it seems like everything he says is read from a script he's seen for the first time. William Marshall in Blacula. William Marshall was a classically trained Shakespearean actor who was once hailed by the London Sunday Times as the best Othello of our time. Unfortunately, he's far more famous for playing the title role in 1972's Blacula and its amazingly titled sequel, Scream, Blacula, Scream.
You shall be Blacula. Blacula.
Now, make no mistake, Blacula is actually a pretty awesome movie, and even stands as one of the first horror movies to star a black actor in the lead role. Marshall's performance as Mamuwalde, an African prince who strikes a deal with Dracula and ends up as a vampire himself, is downright commanding. Marshall reportedly insisted that the character be written with dignity rather than as a bumbling punchline. It was even commercially successful, riding the early 70s blaxploitation movement to become one of 1972's highest-grossing films. That said, it's still a movie in which his performance is elevating the material rather than the other way around. Cate Blanchett in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Well, this is embarrassing. It looks like someone made a mistake in the notes for this video and accidentally wrote that there was a 4th Indiana Jones movie where Indy fights aliens and has a son played by Shia LaBeouf, even though we're pretty sure there were only 3 movies in that series. If, however, there was a 4th Indiana Jones movie, then Cate Blanchett would have definitely been too good for it, especially if it was released in 2008, well after Blanchett had won an Academy Award for Best Actress. Then again, everyone in such a movie would have been slumming it, which is probably why it definitely never happened. Ever. Bob Hoskins in Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Should have worked, and Bob Hoskins is almost perfect for the part of Mario. Admittedly, he's not Italian, and like any actor, he was probably very nervous about stepping into the role so brilliantly defined by Captain Lou Albano.
Time for new day.
Hoskins' performance in Who Framed Roger Rabbit is brilliant, and if he can pull that off, then pretending to stomp on Koopa Troopas should be a piece of cake, right? Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Mario Brothers is a pretty difficult story to screw up, but the filmmakers somehow managed to drop the ball so hard that it registered on the Richter scale. Instead of a fun romp, it's an incomprehensible modern dystopia full of terrifying nightmare monsters. and also Dennis Hopper in a mud bath for some reason.
Do you know what I love about mud? It's clean and it's dirty at the same time.
Raul Julia in Street Fighter. Street Fighter might not be a good movie in the traditional sense, but it's also ridiculously fun. And Raul Julia's genuinely amazing portrayal of M. Bison is responsible for about 99% of that.
For I beheld Satan, and he fell from heaven!
Saying he's going over the top with his performance doesn't quite cover it, because that implies that he's somehow going beyond what the material demands. That's not what's happening here at all. The movie's version of Bison is the kind of megalomaniac who has an entire financial plan based upon printing up his own money and then kidnapping the Queen of England in order to set up the exchange rate. Sadly, Street Fighter was also Julia's last movie, a part he took despite suffering from stomach cancer because his children were fans of the game. But while his death at the height of his career is truly tragic, Julia's performance is beautifully, unironically fantastic. For fans of schlock, it's one of the most fun, self-aware, and endlessly quotable performances ever to grace a goofy video game adaptation. But for Raul Julia,
it was Tuesday.
Sir Patrick Stewart in the Emoji Movie. Finally, there's this. You had to know this was coming. Sir Patrick Stewart, legendary Shakespearean actor, famous for bringing Captain Jean-Luc Picard and Professor X to life, star of stage and screen, patron saint of pop culture, and all-around super talented guy, literally plays a talking pile of poop in a movie about emojis.
This is such a loaded...
No, go ahead. Finish that sentence.
There's literally nothing to add to that. Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel, plus check out all this other cool stuff we know you'll love too.